While classrooms across eastern North Carolina stand empty and students and teachers are tucked away at home, we know a great secret. Learning can happen anywhere. In fact, learning can happen everywhere. Welcome to Eastern Carolina Education Connection, a partnership with WNCT and Pitt County Schools. We're here to connect and reconnect with students, teachers, parents, and community during this unique and remarkable time in our state's history by helping you learn from right where you are.
Hi friends, Miss Ashley here today for our episode of Eastern Carolina Education Connection. Today we're going to go on an adventure with, see what you've got as far as our clues today. I've got a red cape on, got my basket ready to maybe go skipping through the woods. That's right, we're going to be looking at Little Red Riding Hood. The book we're looking at today is Little Red Riding Hood, and it comes to us from Mother's Tales from Project Gutenberg. And we've got two amazing teachers, Gabrielle Lamb, who is our media technologist at Sug Bundy in Farmville, and we're going to have Miss Stevens, Casey Stevens, coming to us, AIG teacher also from Sam Bundy, that are going to be reading and talking with us about wolves, things that we can maybe reframe the way we think about wolves. We might even learn so much that we want to write a letter maybe to somebody, so we're going to take a look at some parts of a letter and some ways that we can communicate our learning with those outside of our homes today. So let's check in with Miss Lamb and see what we can find out about Little Red Riding Hood.
Hi, I'm Gabrielle Lamb, the media coordinator here at Sug Bundy Elementary in Farmville. Today, I'm going to be reading Little Red Riding Hood from Mother's Nursery Tales by Catherine Pyle. This was taken from Project Gutenberg online. You probably heard Little Red Riding Hood before, but you may not have ever heard this version. There was once a little girl whose father and mother loved her so dearly that they thought nothing too good for her. Her mother made for her the prettiest of little dresses, her stockings were of fine yarn, and there were bright buckles on her shoes. Her mother also made for her a little cloak and hood of red cloth, and the little girl looked so pretty in them that her mother called her Little Red Riding Hood instead of Mary, as she had been christened. Little Red Riding Hood had a grandmother who was so old that sometimes she lay in bed all day and felt too weak to get up. One day, the mother called the little girl to her and said, "My child, I have put a pat of butter and some fresh eggs and a wheat cake in this basket. Take it and carry it to your grandmother. Run along quickly and do not loiter nor stop to talk to anyone along the way, for I want you to get back before the afternoon is late." That word loiter means to stop and look around, not pay attention, kind of waste your time. "Yes, dear mother," said the little girl, and she took the basket in her hand and set out for her grandmother's house. At first, she ran along briskly and stopped for nothing, but the fields were full of pretty flowers. "I'm sure," thought Red Riding Hood, "that my grandmother would be glad to have a bunch of daisies and buttercups." She began to pick one here and another there until she had quite a handful. Presently, she heard feet padding along the path, and the old gray wolf came trotting by. See, she loitered, and now she might be in some danger. "Good day, Red Riding Hood," said the wolf. "Good day," answered the child. "And where are you going this fine, bright day with your basket on your arm?" "Oh, I am going to my grandmother's house. She is so old that sometimes she lies in bed and cannot get up, and I am taking her some butter and some fresh eggs and a wheaten cake." "Where does your grandmother live?" "She lives over beyond the wood in a little white house with a thatched roof and green blinds, and the path runs straight there." The wolf had now learned all he cared to know. He bade Red Riding Hood goodbye and trotted on briskly. As soon as he came into the wood where Red Riding Hood could not see him, he began to gallop. On and on he galloped as fast as he could, for he was anxious to get to the little white house with a thatched roof and the green blinds before Red Riding Hood did. He's very sneaky. In the depths of the wood, a woodcutter was busy at his work. He saw the old wolf go hurrying by, and he wondered what he was after. He's up to some mischief or other, and that is sure," said the woodcutter. and he shouldered his axe and followed on after the wolf to see what he was going to do. On went Mr. Wolf, and presently he came to the edge of the forest, and there stood the little white house with a thatched roof and green blinds, and the path led straight up to the door, so the wolf knew that must be where the grandmother lived. And in this picture, there's some pumpkins on the porch, so maybe it's close to Halloween. He stopped and looked all about him, for he did not want anyone to watch him. Very sneaky. He saw no one, however, for the woodchopper had hidden behind some rocks. Then the wolf knocked at the door. Rap, tap, tap. Nobody answered, so he knocked again. Rap, tap, tap. Still no one answered, and there was no stir within the house, though the wolf cocked his ear and listened carefully. The wolf pulled the latch string, the latch flew up, and he pushed the door open and slipped inside. He looked about, and there was nobody there, for the old grandmother had been feeling stronger that day, so she had dressed and had gone out to see a neighbor. The old wolf hunted about until he found the grandmother's bedgown. Then he pulled it on over his big hairy body. He tied on a big ruffled cap and put the grandmother's spectacles on his nose, and after that he crawled into bed and drew the coverlet up under his chin. Spectacles, that's an old-fashioned word for glasses. So I'm wondering, if grandmother left her spectacles that day, I wonder how she is seeing out wherever she has gone. The woodcutter outside wondered what the wolf was doing in the house, but he did not hear a sound. So he sat down to watch and see what would happen next. And as he was very tired, he fell fast asleep. It was not long before Little Red Riding Hood came running along, and she was in a great hurry, for she had spent a long time gathering flowers. There's that word again, she loitered. The woodcutter did not see her, however, for he was asleep. The little girl ran up to the door and knocked upon it. Rap, tap, tap. Then the old wolf made his voice very faint and weak, like the grandmother's. "Who is there?" he asked. "It is I, grandmother, Little Red Riding Hood," answered the child. "Pull the latch string and lift the latch," said the wolf. Red Riding Hood lifted the latch and pushed the door open and went in. There was not much light in the room, for the wolf had pulled the curtains across the window. "I am not able to get up, dear child," said the wolf, still in the same weak voice. "Put your basket on the table and come over here." Red Riding Hood did as she was told. She put the basket on the table and came over to the bedside. But as she came closer, she thought her grandmother looked very strange. "Oh, grandmother, what great big eyes you have," said she. "The better to see you, my dear," answered the wolf. "But, oh, grandmother, what long, long ears you have." "The better to hear you, my dear." "But, grandmother, what big, sharp, white teeth you have." "The better to eat you," howled the wolf, and he sprang out of bed and caught Red Riding Hood by the cloak. The little girl cried out, but at this moment the woodcutter burst open the door and rushed in. The howl had awakened him from his sleep, and just in time. He struck the wolf such a blow on the head that it fell down dead. Then he took Red Riding Hood up in his arms and comforted her, for she was crying bitterly. She was frightened, and her pretty red cloak had been torn. He wiped her eyes and promised to walk home with her, but first, he said, they must wait until the grandmother came home. When she came at last and heard the story and saw the wolf lying there on the floor, she could not thank the wolf cutter enough. And indeed, if it had not been for him, the little girl certainly would have been eaten by the wolf. But from then on, Red Riding Hood was careful to obey her mother and not to loiter on the way when she was sent on errands. The end. Now in that story, the wolf was very dangerous. But in real life, most wolves are not any harm to humans, and you'll learn about that in the next segment.
Okay, friends, what time is it? It's wiggle time. Stand up, stretch out those muscles, get them going. Let's get ready to move with our special guest today.
Hi, boys and girls, it's Mrs. Dawson today with your brain break. Today we're going to play a game called Stop, Drop, and Roll. It's what you do if you were ever to have some fire on you. You would stop, you would drop, and you would roll. So every time you hear me yell fire, you're going to stop what we're doing, you're going to drop on the ground, and you're going to roll. until you hear me say fire's out. You hear me say fire's out, you're gonna stand back up and do whatever exercise it is that I tell you. All right, so let's start off with our jumping jacks. Okay, XI, we've been doing our jumping jacks. We know how to do these. If you hear me yell fire, you're gonna stop, drop, and roll. Fire! Stop, drop, roll, boys and girls. Roll, 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 roll. Fire's out. Back up. Let's jog in place. Jog in place. Let's get those knees up. Get those knees way up, boys and girls. Uh-oh. Keep them up, and fire! Stop, drop, roll, boys and girls. Roll, roll, fire's out. Stand back up. Let's do some squats. Sit back and push back up. Back and push back up. We've done these quite a bit. We know how to do our squats, working our quadricep muscles, and fire! Stop, drop, roll, boys and girls. Roll, 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 roll. Roll, 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 and fire's out. Let's do some rocket ships. Touch the ground, jump, touch the ground, jump, touch the ground, jump, fire! On the ground, roll, 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 and fire's out. That's your brain break for today. Boys and girls, I challenge you to a 20-20-20 this week with your family. 20 minutes of walking, bicycling, running, whatever you need to do, 20 jumping jacks and 20 squats every day with your family. I challenge you. For now, this is Miss Dawson. See you later.
Hi friends, I'm Miss Stevens. So you guys just read Little Red Riding Hood, and I also recently read Little Red Riding Hood. So after reading it, I decided that I wanted to take my own nature walk. But then I got kind of frightened because I was worried about if there were going to be wolves around. So I decided to do some research before I took a walk. So up here are some of the words that I found while I was researching, and I'm going to point out just a few of them to you. So a lot of times we think that wolves howl. They do howl, right? But I'm pretty sure you guys can howl too. So when we think about wolves and when they howl, a lot of people think that they might be howling at the moon. But that's not actually true. They're howling at one another to communicate, the same way that you guys communicate with your family members. So another word is sharp teeth. Well, we know that those wolves, they do have really sharp teeth. But if you think about it, they don't have forks or knives to eat with, so they have to have sharp teeth to eat their food. Another one is domesticated and wild. So these are two that are kind of different. When we think about wolves, they live in the wild. Well, we have some dogs at home, some of us might, and they would be domesticated. When we think about those wild wolves, they're out in the wild roaming around, whereas our dogs are domesticated and they might live in our houses or they might live in a fence outside. So they're kind of similar, but they're two completely different species. Another one is helpful. So wolves are actually very helpful to our ecosystem and to other animals. So wolves can be helpful because when they eat food, they leave their leftovers for other animals to eat. And the last word that I'm going to share with you is endangered. So actually in eastern North Carolina, we have an endangered population of wolves, and they are called the red wolves. And there's only about 50 of them left. So we really have to be careful, and we want them to kind of get back up to more wolves. But that also made me feel a little bit better because when I went on my nature walk, I knew I probably wasn't going to see any wolves. So after I did my research and I researched all these words and I thought about them, I felt a lot more safe going out to my backyard and going on a walk. And it helped me learn just a little bit more about wolves. Well then, thinking back to Little Red Riding Hood, I also, I started thinking about my grandma, and I started thinking about, well, maybe she doesn't know all of this stuff about wolves. So I decided to write her a letter to let her know everything that I learned. So just because that she's in her house and I'm in my house and we can kind of get outside a little bit, it made me feel better that I could write her a letter and share all of this information about wolves to her that she might not know. So now I challenge you guys while you're sitting at home and you can maybe go outside for a walk. I want you to go outside for a nature walk, and I want you to learn about wolves, or you can pick any animal that you'd like and do some research on them.
Hi, friends. Miss Stevens just left to go on her adventure, and I got excited thinking maybe I want to go on one too. So I rummaged around my house to see what I could find to take with me on my adventure. Let me show you what I got. I decided I was going to get hungry, so I wanted some cookies to have as a snack. Maybe if I have a minute to sit down under a nice tree while I'm outside. And if you give Miss Ashley some cookies, she's going to want some juice to go along with it. So I grabbed a juice box to help me stay hydrated while I'm outside as well. Always want to take a friend with me everywhere I go, so I grabbed Jeffrey, my giraffe, so that he could go on the adventure with me. And Jeffrey really likes apples, so I grabbed an apple for Jeffrey too. I was thinking about Little Red Riding Hood, so my mom has a basket and it just happened to have some red in it, so I thought what a great thing to use to put all of my items in. So I'm ready to go. I think Miss Stevens might have just gotten back from her adventure. Let's check in and see what she found while she was out today.
Hey friends, so I'm back and I just got back from my nature walk and I have my little basket here. It had some snacks in it, but I already ate them all, so I can't share with you. So after I got back from my nature walk, I really wanted to tell my grandma about it. So I decided that I was gonna write her a letter. So I've already started my letter here. So I started with my greeting and I'm writing to my grandma. So I said, "Dear Grandma," and you always have to have a comma at your greeting. Then I am working on my body. I haven't quite finished it yet, but I'm going to show you what I have so far. So I said, today I learned so much about wolves and I wanted to share it all with you. And I put an exclamation point because I am so excited to share it with her. So now I have to finish my body, but I was really trying hard to figure out what was so important that I wanted to share with her. Well, I think after thinking about it and looking at all of my words that I have here after I researched, I think that I wanted to make sure that she understood that wolves aren't so scary after all. So I think I'm going to say that you might think wolves are scary, but they are actually helpful. So I'm going to go ahead and write that. All right, so I just wrote my sentence and now I'm going to read it with you guys to make sure it looks okay. So it says, you might think wolves are scary, but they are actually helpful. And so remember, when we talked about wolves, we talked about how we thought they were scary, but they were actually helpful because they could help other animals get food. All right, so now I'm going to move on to my next sentence. And after looking at all of my words, I think the next word that I'm going to pick is howl, because I want to tell her how wolves howl to talk to each other. All right, so we just wrote our next sentence and it says, wolves howl to talk to each other. So I wanted her to learn just like what we learn. So a lot of times in books or movies, we see that it looks like that wolves are howling at the moon, but they're actually just howling at one another so they can talk to each other. So I wanted her to know that because that's what I taught you guys and that's what I learned as well. All right, so I'm gonna go back over. I'm gonna see that I have Dear Grandma, and that was our greeting, all right? And then I wrote my body of my letter. Now for the last thing, I have to write my closing, and this is where I'm gonna sign my name. So over here, I'm gonna write love. Then on the next line, I'm gonna write Casey. All right, so let's look back over this one more time. So if we look back up here, I'm gonna read it all with you guys. So it says, Dear Grandma, and remember your greeting always has to have a comma because you're introducing who you're talking to. So then our body of our letter says, today I learned so much about wolves and I wanted to share it with you. You might think wolves are scary, but they are actually helpful. Wolves howl to talk to each other. Then the last thing was my closing that says, love, Casey. So now that we've written my letter, I want to challenge you guys to go on your own nature walk today. You can even bring a little basket like mine, or if you don't have a basket at home, you can always create your own little basket out of some paper or some boxes and throw some of your favorite foods in there to take on your nature walk. Then, when you're on your nature walk, I want you to look all around you. Use all of your 5 senses. What do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? Then, when you get back from your nature walk, I want you to take some time to write a letter to a family member or a friend that you haven't seen in a long time. But remember, when you're writing your letter, you have to have these 3 important things. You have to have your greeting, which is who you're writing it to. Your body, which is where you write all of your information, that important information that you want to share with them, and then your closing, which is where you sign your name. All right, well, I had so much fun talking to you guys today, and I hope you have a fabulous time on your nature walk.
Hi, friends. Today's episode, we're going to do some experiments that you can make happen right from where you are. Let's check in with our in-house science expert. Take it away.
Hello. Are you excited about science? I am. I'm Miss Lori and I love science. Do you know what science is? Ooh, those are some good answers. Yes, science is the study of things all around us. And people who study science is called scientists. Do you know any scientists? I bet you can name some. Give me some names of scientists. Oh, those are wonderful answers. Yes, nurses and doctors are scientists. They study the human body. Farmers, yes, farmers are scientists too. Some farmers study land and soil. Other farmers study animals. Good answers. Can you name some more? Ooh, all of those are wonderful answers. Those are some great examples of scientists. Well, today, you're going to be a scientist. Are you ready for science time? I am. So gather around. Let's have science. Hello, I'm Miss Lori, and it is time for science. Today, we're going to talk about water. Can you tell me a few things about water? Yes, all living things need water. Water is a liquid. Good answer. Oh, I love those answers. You are very smart. So today, we're going to use water in our experiment. Water molecules or water drops like each other. They are very strong and they like to stay together. Water droplets are so strong that they can break rocks. We call that erosion. So let's see how strong water is. And let's see what happens when we mix some things together with water. For today's experiment, we're going to use black pepper, of course a little bit of water, a bowl, and some soap. It can be any kind of soap. It can be hand soap, it can be dish soap, any type of liquid soap will work for this experiment. Water is so strong that it can also hold a bug. Have you ever seen a bug on water? Or maybe a leaf? Yeah, water is very strong. Let's see how strong it can be. So pour some water in your bowl until it's about half full. Then add your pepper. Shake, shake, shake the pepper until you cover up the top. So where's the pepper? On top of the water. Can you tell me some other things that you observe or see? The pepper is black. The pepper is gray. The pepper is small. All of those are some good observations. The water droplets like the pepper. They're sticking to the pepper, so the water and the pepper are hanging out together. But what might happen if we put soap in our bowl with pepper and water? Can you make a prediction? What do you think is going to happen? Let's see if you're right. You're going to need 1 drop. So add 1 drop of soap onto your finger. Just 1 drop is all you need. Got your predictions? Let's see if you're right. Ready, set, put it in the water. Did you see that? The pepper moved away. Is that magic? No, it's science. It is science. The water molecules like each other and they hold on really tight. Those water droplets just hold on really, really tight. But when you put soap in, they break apart and make the pepper move to the side. That's science. Did you guess right? Was your prediction right? It's amazing what happens with water, soap, and just a little bit of pepper. Share this experiment with your parents or your siblings or your cousins and ask them what they think will happen. Tell them you know a magic trick called science that will make the pepper move. I'm Miss Lori, and this has been our Science Time. Have fun and enjoy science.
Hi friends, I just don't want you to forget, we've got our Facebook page where you can also put some submissions of things that you've created, things that you've learned from the lessons that we've done. Just go to Facebook and type in @PCSECEC and let us see the magic. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together on Eastern Carolina Education Connection, and I'm really looking forward to our next episode where we can learn and explore together from right where you are.
You can also connect with us on Facebook using the information below. We look forward to seeing you for our next episode.